Hi, everybody. I'm Jules, and I am a therapist in Austin, Texas, and a student of neuroscience, and I love to share neuroscience. And today, I want to talk about connection and what happens when our desire to seek connection is thwarted. And the reason this has been coming up for me lately is watching all of the social distancing and watching the social justice movement and these cries that we're seeing everywhere in these peaceful protests. And it struck me that there's a particular neuroscientist who's talking about something that may help us all understand a little bit more about what's happening. So it's been niggling at the back of my brain for a few weeks, and I decided I would put something together, just a little short video to sort of give you an overview of this work. So Jaak Panksepp and Lucy Bibbin wrote a book together called The Archaeology of the Mind. And before that, Jaak Panksepp wrote a book called Affective Neuroscience. There it is. And I want to talk specifically about circuitry in the midbrain and their work and understanding what it is that's happening. So when we think about emotions, actually think about emotional processing in the brain being a threefold system. So there's motivational system in the midbrain, and then there's emotional processing, meaning making, assessment of what all of the feed from all of the stuff that we're surrounded with every day means to us, given our particular history, which is more limbic, and then the thought areas, the way we're generating meaning at a higher level, which is more neocortex. And I actually consider all of that part of what we mean when we say emotion. So Jaak Panksepp has done work specifically in that midbrain area. So what the area of brain I'm talking about, so imagine this is your brain. We have a handy model of the brain thanks to Nan Siegel. So here is brainstem and down into the spinal cord, limbic, basal ganglia, subcortical area, and the neocortex wraps on top. The midbrain is the top of the brainstem. It sits right underneath the thalamus. So it's like where the midbrain is where the brainstem and the limbic system come and touch each other. And that neocortex wraps around there. So it's very close as well. So you can see it's right down in the middle of the brain. And what he talks about is motivational systems that have this origin of emotion that's really pre-verbal. It's not about describing what we're feeling. It's more like a body up felt knowing about what to do next. And the granddaddy circuit in this whole system, and he puts the circuits in all caps. So I've done that in my very non-tech savvy pieces of paper I'm going to show you. Right? The granddaddy of them all is called the seeking system. And so the seeking system is the base of everything. And it is the motivation to move beyond just this little bubble of safety here when I stay really, really quiet. So if I'm moving out into the world, part of that, what's happening is that dopaminergic surge down in that midbrain area. So the seeking system in mammals like us who have a really large troop size is focused on our caregivers first. So seeking proximity to people who will comfort us, connect with us, protect us. And out of that base comes all of the play and the expansion and the curiosity and moving way beyond what could be created inside of this connection space. But that connection space is the necessary base for our systems to feel safe enough to do that exploration. So when seeking is met really well, there's a certain trajectory our system takes. And here's how he describes it. So our seeking system is met well, and we move into our care system. And that's when we're with each other and feel seen and feel understood and feel trust. And we could stay there for a while. But what happens actually is that seeking system is still going. And as long as those care needs have been met, we move into play, into exploration, into adventuring, into creating things like indoor plumbing. Thank you, everyone, for that one. We love that we have explored beyond just that care, nurturing, parent-child pairing. And then eventually we move into lust when it's developmentally appropriate. So if everything's met, we move up one path. If, on the other hand, it's not met, we move through layers of attempting to move back into care. So the seeking system, when it moves up the other path, I'm reaching out for care, to feel heard, to feel understood, to feel with, and I don't have that. My caregiver is not with me. The other people that I'm searching for response from are not available. And the first layer I'm going to hit, Jaak Panksepp calls panic grief. So panic grief is that knowledge that what I'm seeking is not there, right? So we hit that grief space, but also it has an urgent energy in it. And so there's a searching, right? And if we think about it as an infant is expressing it, we would hear that sort of cry. And a lot of times what will happen is the parent would respond and we would move right back over into the care play. And like I said, when it was developmentally appropriate, into seeking a sexual partner, into that lust phase. So what happens though if the panic grief is not met with care? We escalate further into fear. And when we're in that fear space, we're more in fight-flight motivation. So we would move into spaces that were really scary, right? Move into spaces that might scare other people, or might, we might be saying to ourselves, no one's going to show up, I'm on my own here, right? And that's a way to deal with the lack of care, right? And a lot of times people will respond to this fear space with connection, with, oh no, you're scared, what's wrong? And so it can really move us back into this space where we would feel safe and eventually move into that adventure, exploration, creativity, creation sort of space again. So what happens if panic grief does not bring us back into care and fear does not bring us back into care? We move into rage. Now, when I first read Panksepp's work, I was like, rage as a bid for connection? Really? I have a kiddo. She's now 6. The story I'm about to tell you happened when she was about 3. It was the moment when I got what he was talking about with rage as a bid for connection, because that's not something I had ever thought about. When I thought about rage, I thought about rage and I think anger, as we're describing it in the world, may be a little bit different than what Jaak Panksepp's talking about. Maybe in more of a secondary or tertiary system. But I always thought about it as like bringing back into control, or maybe it's a response to a boundary violation. One, I don't think it's one thing, but when we talk about Jaak Panksepp, what he's talking about is rage as a bid for connection, as a bid to move us back into the care space. So when I was thinking about this, I was getting it intellectually, but not getting it viscerally. One day when my kiddo was probably about 3, I was sitting with her on the kitchen floor, and I do not remember what I was doing. I could have been in my phone. I could have been working on something. Anyway, my eyes were not on her, but we were right next to each other. She's here and I'm here. And I was doing something with my hands. I don't know. I'm not on my phone a lot when I'm with my kid, to be honest with you. So I don't remember what I was doing, but whatever. I was doing something. I wasn't paying attention to her really. And she's talking to me. And I hear the whine start, right? The little sort of tone start in her voice. Here she is, right in that panic grief space. And I said, well, baby, I'm listening, but I didn't look up. I was with this. It escalates further. I said, Stella, I'm listening to you. Her name's Stella. And she escalates all the way up into the rage state. She grabs my face and whips my face around really fast and says, Mommy, listen to me. Thank goodness I had studied this work, because it's instantly, this is just the way my brain works. So it totally rage, fit for connection. So in that moment, what happened next was I said, oh my gosh, honey, you were so right. Mommy was not listening to you, and you were asking me to listen to you. I'm so sorry. And she melts and we cuddle and everything was fine. Right. So that moment in parenting taught me so much about what Jaak Panksepp is saying, that all of these escalations are actually a request, an urgent bid for the care system to come back online. And when it does, then we can move into that play, that exploration, that creative thinking, that expansion, and not until then. And I posted on my Facebook a little bit ago a video that Dave Chappelle put out, and I think it is a video that shows this rage as bid for connection really, really well. And I'm thinking about it across all of the different planes right now, because I am seeing so much rage. And it just tells me that we're not connected enough. And I'm wondering if we could all start seeing rage as a bid for connection. And I'm not saying every anger is that. I'm not trying to say that. But if we could say overall, oh, we're seeing all this anger because there's too much disconnection. I wonder what would happen if we all got compassionate about that and decided to long for connection again and decided to listen to all these different spaces. So anyway, I hope that helps in your thinking about this, just as another voice in another way of thinking about what we're seeing when we're seeing rage. All right. I hope you all are well and be safe, and see you soon.